So getting into these conversations of masculinity, Amanda, because this is something that I think a lot of people don't really talk about. Masculinity is there's a certain caricature of masculinity, I think,
Yeah.
but it's a caricature because some of it's quite true as well, right? So you've had a lot of conversations with your interviews and videos. What do you think about the Sri Lankan version of masculinity? Could you give us what have you learned, like, broadly from the people you've spoken to about how they view being a man and this whole idea of being masculine?
I think predominantly we as very traditional cultural folk either have a very, very strong view of what masculinity should be, and that is also a very blindsided way, in that the only way I would learn about masculinity would be from my peer group and my dad.
Right.
But then the only way he would learn from his, or what his idea of masculinity would be, also his peer group and his dad. And what you see from mainstream media. We have the privilege of being in this group where, because of the internet, there's so many ideas. But I think still Sri Lanka is behind the concept of a traditional man should be almost brash and borderline rude, and I think it all comes down to a lack of education, because there's nobody here to specifically say, maybe don't catcall girls anymore, and maybe try this instead. How to do something or how to approach a girl is still not a topic that's absolutely spoken about too much. It might be there in forms of TikTok videos and Instagram videos, but there's no proper education per se. It's just a random pass, like, oh, maybe you should do this, and it just dies back down. Because of that, and because you had to reach not just the western part of Sri Lanka that has or is internet privy or savvy, it's the entirety of it.
Right.
I still don't think there's a very positive idea or outlook as to how you should be embracing proper masculine traits and probably negating the rest of it.
Catcalling specifically, I think there's a cultural aspect to it, but why in Sri Lanka it's such a big problem that most females I know have been catcalled at some point in their lives. What do you think the benefit has been to the men from the catcalling? I'm just trying to understand.
I think the whole the catcalling thing is, it's almost a rite of passage, and it's almost like an acceptance to a peer group where the four of us are hanging out, and if you don't do it, then you're not as cool as us because we did it. And it's not even about the rejection or getting the girl. It is about what impact or how you can startle somebody, and you can. It is a baby lion's roar, right? And it is the acceptance that it gets in the pride that males try to emulate into their social circles.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually, because we are sort of emulating what we see. We're products of our environment.
As one as it can.
And how do the social media environment, does that impact masculinity? Or have you seen, like, how does that... because, for example, if you go through your Instagram, I went through your Instagram, you've got a lot of very interesting looks, like androgynous looks that are a little bit binary even. You're openly wearing makeup, and it's got a certain vibe to it where you can be flexible.
Yeah.
Is that a problem for other male models? Do you think do you feel you're pushing back against some sort of like masculine sort of tradition in doing that? Is it something that you enjoy doing, like pushing the boundaries?
I think what it was at first was to stir the waters.
Right.
I wanted to be that. It was very heartbreaking to me to know that sometimes, and especially in Sri Lanka, you can't wear what you want to wear. And my entire job is wear this and wear that.
Right.
So what I try to do was to not just shake the pot, I want to kick the pot. And that's what I initially wanted to do. And it's also almost a part of my job. I mean, you go to any show or any commercial, and they plaster you with that stuff. And you're with it for the good proportion. I mean, the entire day, more or less.
More or less, yeah.
So to me, it was a very normalized thing. I mean, you put on a couple of makeup, and that is not so that you are more effeminate with it. It's just that you have blemishes on your skin. We can't show that because the product has to look perfect.
Right.
So I got to cover you up with a layer. To me, it's a very normalized thing.
Right.
So I really understand the stigma behind it. But towards the mid part of it, what I wanted to also get out there was you shouldn't be held back by what society tells you what to wear and what not to wear.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you feel comfortable wearing a suit, you should more or less be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that should not just be applicable to guys. It should be applicable to girls and everything else in between. Now I'm kind of pulling back on the entire androgynous, almost effeminate thing. I'm trying to be as not averse to it, but trying to find middle ground between the two of that.
Right. Interesting. I want to just to move away from masculinity for a second, because you mentioned this sexuality and social media, but also I think there's an expectation almost, and a lot of it's very familiar that the female form is sexualized.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka, do you think people are as comfortable with the male form being sexualized as much as they are the female form? Do you, for example, if you put out an overtly sexual picture,
Right,
like a Calvin Klein sort of spread,
yeah,
do you think other men, or is there some kind of a stigma there? Do you think are women and men all equally comfortable with that? Do you think? Or?
I think the more sexualized you are, and more open you are about it, you're immediately categorized as being homosexual.
Right.
And
do you think that's a Sri Lankan thing, or is it just? Do you think it's a? You think we don't? I mean,
I want to say it's a very like a very 1940s, 1800s version of it.
Version.
Yeah. In that, even if you wear color, there's a spectrum that is for guys only, and there's a spectrum for girls only, and there's a line there. You should never cross that line. So I think culture, it's always repressed, and that is and there's nobody tell you, but other people wear it too, and you can wear it too if you want to. That's completely fine. There's nobody say that. And again, as human beings, we are herd creatures, and we want to fit in. We don't want to fit out and say, oh, maybe you should do that. So if 9 out of 10 of my friends are gonna say, yeah, that's kind of, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, that's I didn't think anything.
I didn't think
of course.